We are live.
We're back.
Ooh, welcome back, everybody. It's Friday.
Noah, it's nice to hear your voice.
Yours too. It's been 9 long days.
9 long days.
You know, the thing is we went on that pretty long hiatus where we were doing like...
The special episode marathon?
Yeah, were you doing like the special episode marathon, like that one episode a week? You know, we would have large gaps in our episodes.
Right.
Then we had, 6 episodes in 10 days.
Yeah.
And now here we are 9 days later, and it's the longest gap we probably ever had.
This is the longest gap we've had. However, still no missed weeks, technically.
Yeah. It just feels strange.
Yes.
I think that's the best way to put it.
Well said.
But since it's been a while, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. Clearly, if you're listening to this or viewing on YouTube, we are not in person. We are doing this one remote. Noah, of course, traveling home to be with his mama for her birthday. Shout out Mama Baker. I've been doing well, man. Again, missing you here in the studio, but, life's treating me well. What about yourself? How was the drive home? How are you doing back home?
It was good. I was supposed to come home after work Thursday, so yesterday, when you're watching this. But instead, I came home Wednesday after work because we were supposed to get a bunch of snow in Bowling Green Thursday again for like the third time this week.
The usual.
So, so came home a day earlier than I thought I was going to, but it was fine. Drive was cool, man. I mean, I got used to making those long drives from August to December.
Yeah, I mean, you went through a training camp all for this,
Yeah, honestly, I really did. And it really prepared me for this drive. And it was pretty easy breezy. Got home, had some good food. Been enjoying time with my folks. Mom's birthday is today, Friday, February 5th. So make sure if you guys friends with her on Facebook, perhaps, wish her a happy birthday.
100%. I mean, if you're listening, like this video. It's telling her, happy birthday. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to follow us. It's all birthday present to Mama Baker.
Exactly. But yeah, besides that, all good. Glad to hear you're doing well.
I will say, real quick, sorry, to just cut you off because I can't see you. We have now had an episode air on your birthday and your mother's birthday. I just wanted to throw that out there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
But proceed.
Oh, but we also have a bit of news in that it looks like I'm taking your apartment.
This is true, yes.
Yeah.
You're moving into the studio.
Yeah, literally one Joe leaves, another Joe enters. For
yes, the show goes on.
Yeah, the studio must remain in our line.
Yeah, so a couple months from now when we're remote again, you will be where I am sitting, and I will be on your end, It's just crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So all good vibes right now. Everything's good. But I think the people are done hearing about us, okay? It's time to get into some news.
Yeah, we have a lot here, okay? We haven't had an episode since last Wednesday, so there's been a little bit of a gap, okay? And you guys are
don't do this, Dom. The people are ready for this.
All right, just let's get into it.
It is time for the news.
The news.
We're starting literally a week from now.
Yeah, that's true.
A week from Saturday, a week from tomorrow. A couple of big announcements for UFC 258. Probably the more minor one, but still a fight that we're both excited for. It's a legend fight.
Absolutely.
Bobby Green versus Jim Miller happening on the prelims of UFC 258. What just a great fight. Two guys that have looked really good in 2020, especially. Bobby Green had that run at the Apex, kind of came up short against Thiago Moises, but then Jim Miller had a good run in 2020, had a couple of really nice performances on some fight nights. I'm really excited for this fight. I think to just call it a legend fight kind of does it a disservice. I feel like it's still a competitive fight, if that makes sense.
Right, I agree.
But yeah, give me your full thoughts on this fight. And I know you're a big Bobby Green guy.
He was, the king. Bobby Green was the king of the Apex in 2020. Went 3-1, almost finished the year undefeated. But I think this is a fun one, man. Bobby Green's got the really crisp striking, but he's pretty well rounded. And Jim Miller's going to look to utilize the wrestling. If I had to imagine, it should be a good matchup. Honestly, it really is on paper, and it's a toss-up as to who could win. I really think that's fun matchmaking for, the diehard fans are really going to look forward to a fight like this. There's a fight like this on this UFC Vegas 18 card that we're going to mention later. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so much so that I think we kind of had them mixed up for a second.
Yeah.
That this fight was happening tomorrow and this other fight was happening a week from now. We got it figured out, though. But point being, Green versus Miller, it's a great fight. Bobby Green being a guy who's really been pacing himself lately, going to a lot of decisions. Jim Miller always brings it. So I think that sets up for a really nice style clash there where you're going to see Jim Miller really looking to grab a hold of a leg or get a hold of his body or something, try to drag him down to the ground, and Bobby Green's going to have to look to keep that distance with his striking, and I think it could lead to a very fun fight.
Yeah, it could be a 3-round battle for sure.
Mm-hmm. Also for UFC 258, this one a bit on the somber side. We lost our co-main event.
We did.
Originally, Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman rematch. It's been postponed. But it has been rescheduled.
Way out.
Yeah, UFC 261. Tell me if I'm wrong. Is that one of our first fight announcements for 261?
That is the one and only that I have been made aware of for April 24th, UFC 261. That is the only fight so far.
Yeah, there could potentially be a couple smaller fights that have been announced for that, but as far as any fights that would be on a main card, I think that's the first one I've heard of. So cool that fight got rebooked for then. Sucks. UFC 258 already not quite the most stacked card in the world, and now you're losing your co-main event. But
it sucks for UFC 258 because they're sandwiched in the middle of a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, and then in March we have 2 pay-per-views with combined 5 title fights. So it kind of stinks.
I think a lot of fight fans got really spoiled in 2020.
Yeah.
Not only with the quantity, we did have fights every week from July to January basically, but also with just quality. It was just banger after banger after banger, and even cards that on paper didn't look too great were having fight of the year type performances. And I think a lot of people got spoiled. So I think people look at this card. Kamaru Usman is not everyone's cup of tea. We know this.
But he's damn good.
He's damn good, and I think that fight with Gilbert Burns has got the potential to be maybe his his moment. The Colby fight tends to be the one that gets that reputation because it was such a banger of a fight. But this one, I think, could even be just as fun, dare I say.
Oh, I 100% agree. I can't wait for that main event. For guys like us, we are going to love that pay-per-view, I believe. When you really look at it, there's a lot of important fights and still a lot of ranked opponents. But it's just when you're sandwiched in between these amazing pay-per-views that the UFC's doing in the first quarter, it's there's got to be one little rough patch. You can't just have all of these stacked pay-per-views. That's just inevitable.
And you can tell that the UFC probably believed this themselves because we didn't include it in the news today, but if rumors are to be believed, they were trying to get Oliveira versus Chandler on this card. Is that correct?
They were on a 2 weeks notice, which I hated. But yes, they were trying to get this on that card as the new co-main. Yeah,
and I'm not one to really want. I don't want that as much as I want that fight. All in all, I'd rather them take their time with it. I don't want to see it. These guys coming in off 3 weeks or 2 week notice, whatever. I'd rather them. I'd rather right now it get booked for 261.
Yeah,
personally.
I want them to go through a training camp, be 100% ready, especially guys like Oliveira Chandler. You don't want to see that fight on 2 weeks' notice. Come on now.
And I think we'll talk about this more later because we got a lot to talk about with the lightweight division. But truthfully, I'm just saying that I could tell the UFC probably wanted to bulk up 258 a little bit, but probably not going to happen.
It's like tossing Ferguson and Oliveira on the 256 card, truthfully.
Yep, exactly.
Except that actually happened, but,
Yeah. So, unfortunate for Hall and Weidman. Was it Uriah that tested positive?
I think it was actually Chris.
So Weidman tested positive?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so speedy recovery to him. Hopefully both guys are doing well leading into their rebooking. Uriah Hall had a tough 2020 when it came to his opponents testing positive for COVID, so I'd hate to see that be replicated in 2021. But we move on to another bit of a somber note, but also it's like a positive. There's a flip side.
Yeah.
So originally our main event for our last card in February is February 27th, was a highly anticipated fight at light heavyweight between Dominic Reyes and Jiri Prochazka. That fight still I need to see that
That's
fight.
A huge
that fight
fight.
Is so interesting. Unfortunately, it's been postponed, and we got a new main event, and that's Cyril. Excuse me, I need to get this man's name right.
Cyril Gane?
I think it's Cyril Gane.
Cyril Gane.
Why did I feel like we didn't have any trouble with this when we talked about him at UFC 256?
I don't know.
It was the last name that gave us more trouble.
This is true.
So Cyril Gane is now in his first main event.
Huge fight. Love this fight. This is the fight I made. I made this fight.
Yep, Dominic is the reason this fight's happening. So you guys can thank him. But Cyril Gane is going up against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And look, the fight's going to be 5 rounds, but it ain't going 5. I don't think so. That fight's a banger, though. I know we've already talked about both of these, but just mentioning that you got that new main event in there, what are your thoughts on this being the new main event?
I've said it once, and I'm going to say it again. A convincing finish in this fight could really put him at a number 1 contender status, the way this division is right now. Especially when we're going to talk about on the 20th, Blades and Derek Lewis rescheduled. That, on paper, is the number 1 contender fight, but you know how the UFC is with Curtis Blades and even Derek Lewis. So if Gane can come in and starch Rozenstruik or vice versa, they could get in line for a title shot after John Jones, that is, of course. So you never know. But this fight right here, incredible matchmaking. It's a big step up for Gane, in my opinion. And for Rozenstruik, this is a next-level striker. I cannot wait for that fight.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better myself there. It's especially for Gane. I think he's got a lot. There's a lot that could be earned here if he has a big performance like he did against JDS.
Mm-hmm.
I think truly the biggest wild card is John Jones, but you're about to get Stipe and Ngannou too. That's happening in March. So we're going to have some direction there. Depending on how that fight goes, you might see Jones fighting a winner, or maybe you won't. Who knows? But
right.
if that's the direction they go, you might see that fight before the fall. That's still a maybe, especially if Stipe's the one that wins. But if Ngannou, kind of gets a real quick knockout or something, or if for somehow Stipe were to do it, maybe you get that fight in a couple months. But I think Gane could totally leapfrog Lewis or Curtis Blades, especially if Blades kind of wins the fight the way that in my head I could see him winning it, which is another bit of a slog of a performance. Maybe dominant, but just boring. And Dana, he's already kind of on Dana's shit list for speaking out about fighter pay and things like that. So Gane's got a lot. There's a lot at stake here for him in a way. and he could
When I
totally.
see Gane, I see future champion.
I do too, totally. I mean, there's really I don't know if there's any other way to say it, but
There's something about him. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
and
Young guy, out of the fighting out of like Paris, if I'm not mistaken, or he's at least
yeah,
French. The
the
stand-up
thing,
technician. I mean, it's beautiful.
it's so weird how him and Ngannou are like buddies.
Gane and Ganu down the line. What do you think?
I don't know. They're such good friends.
There can only be one
Yeah, I
baddest
mean,
man, baby.
you got to see that fight at some point, right? That fight's just you have to see it.
Oh, baby.
But regardless, that's your new main event. We move on a month later,
Oh,
March 27th.
you're a big fan of this one.
UFC 260. I'm not gonna lie. When this was kind of being talked about for a few days before it got officially announced. But I'm just mind blown that this fight's happening.
You like don't know what to do with your hands type of mind blown.
Like it's one of those mind blowns where it's not all like it's not like I'm just so stoked for this fight. I mean, I do like the fight. It's just I never would have thought these two would be placed against each other ever. And that is Vicente Luque and Tyron Woodley.
It's a fun one on paper anyway. I should say.
So let's look at this fight. Let's break this down actually for a second. Not our usual breakdown, but just style wise.
Right.
Tyron Woodley is finally kind of getting a break from. I know Gilbert gave him a bit of problems with the hands, but Gilbert at the end of the day was taking down Tyron Woodley a lot. So you got Usman, Burns, Covington all kind of implementing this similar game plan and essentially shut out Tyron Woodley. Now you give him a striker who is still a freaking killer in that division, but it's just a lot different of a style than we've seen Woodley fight in the last 2 years. And I don't know if that's going to be to his benefit or if it's just going to kind of dig his grave even deeper. I don't know.
I mean, if Woodley wants to win this fight, he has to figure out how to let his hands go again, or he's going to be in trouble. I'm just going to put it that way.
Because for all the good I can say about Luque, and maybe I should spend a little more time. I mean, I love Vicente Luque. Defensively speaking, he can be a bit of a punching bag at times.
He can get hit.
His fights with like Stephen Thompson. Obviously, Wonderboy being just a world-class striker, not everybody's got that level. Tyron Woodley is not that level of striker. However,
Tyron Woodley does have the power, though. We've seen it.
He does have the power, and Tyron Woodley nearly finished Wonderboy. That tells you anything. I definitely think I'll put it like this. I mean, if you see the Tyron Woodley that was in his last 3 fights, I mean, this is going to be a slaughter.
This will be the swan song. This will be it.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, we can't see that a 4th time, right? Like, Woodley's going to have to.
Well, then you look at, you and me both predicting Tyron to let his hands go against Colby and knock him out, and we saw how that turned out. So I don't really know what to do about Tyron anymore. I know that guy that was the best in the world at one time is still in there, man. I think it's one of those guys and one of these instances where it's more mental than physical. I'm going to be honest, and that's just tougher for some people to get over than others, I think, and it's showing with Woodley here. This is interesting. Luque's going to come in and try and take his head off, so he's going to have to be ready.
And my point with Luque being kind of a punching bag at times where he just kind of allows he stands in the pocket and he's kind of like, I'll eat one in order to give you one harder.
Yeah.
And I don't think he has more power than Woodley, so that could be a problem. But I do think he's got a lot more output than Woodley, and that's not even just including.
You cut out. Hello? Hello? We lost him. We lost Noah, ladies and gentlemen. Noah. I don't know. He's cut out. But yeah, I mean, this fight, Luque Woodley, this is an important fight too for the division. Tyron needs a win, obviously, on a 3-fight skid. And then we have a guy like Luque who has been fighting the toughest guys, but then when the biggest tasks are presented to him, he does tend to fall short, but he's never in a boring fight. So I'm really excited to see how he can bounce back here. Both guys, really. And if Tyron goes on and loses a 4th straight, it really could be the end of his UFC career. I don't want to, be the Debbie Downer, but it is a possibility. So that's a fun fight. And then I believe Luque's number 10 right now, Woodley's 6th. So Luque's trying to finally crack into that top 10, get the top 5 next in his next fight. And Woodley's just trying to prove he's still got some gas left in the tank. So I can't wait for that. And again, that is UFC 260, March 27th. Let's see if Noah's back yet. Noah?
Yep, I'm back here.
Okay. I was just trying to put some more spin on that fight till we got you back.
You were stalling. Also for UFC 260, Sugar Sean, the Sugar Show is back.
He's back.
And he's going up against Thomas Almeida.
This is a fun fight. That's really fun.
This is very fun. So Thomas Almeida's had a bit of a rough go of things. I think that's safe to say more recently. Really, ever since he ran into Cody Garbrandt, he's not been that same level of prospect that we once saw. But there's a lot of questions about Sean O'Malley. He was kind of the hype train that sort of got derailed when he went up against Chito Vera back at our very first pay-per-view breakdown, UFC 252.
Right, it's actually crazy we haven't seen Sean since then. Now that I think about it, it's kind of wild.
I haven't even heard much about him. There was that controversy that came out like last week with Casey Kenny talking about Megan Anderson on Sean's podcast. But besides that, I literally hadn't heard of Sean O'Malley since basically that fight happened. He's been kind of nowhere.
Yeah, this is not an easy fight for Sean. He does, it's a good fight to bring him back and still give him like a well-known fighter, but it's not easy by any means. It's kind of like the Cheeto fight in a similar sense.
To me, this fight comes off like, I think Sean O'Malley's striking, Thomas Almeida has shown that his chin can be a weak spot for him. So therefore, I think that this matchup favors O'Malley in a lot of ways. For what we said about O'Malley getting a win over Chito Vera, at least for me, I never really saw him finishing Chito. Chito had just always shown such a strong chin, and had been some wars in there.
Right.
And I just couldn't see O'Malley finishing him. But here I could see O'Malley doing what he did to Eddie Wineland against Thomas Almeida.
For sure. But
on the reverse end, Thomas Almeida is an exceptional grappler when it comes to his jiu-jitsu. And, Sean's he's had some interesting limb issues, to put it lightly, in a couple of his fights. So I think that could get real interesting if this fight gets to the ground somehow. We could be in for a very interesting fight.
For sure. And again, that's on March 27th. Luque Woodley on March 27th. These 2 March pay-per-views, really just March in general, because the fight night sandwiched in between, it's unbelievable. I'm not going to be able to comprehend the entire month of March.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty crazy, ain't it?
Yeah, it might go down as one of the most stacked months the UFC has ever had, ever. It's crazy. But I digress.
So now we move on to April 10th.
One day before my birthday. This is my birthday card, and they're doing me good. I'm just going to be honest.
So we're going to start with Marvin Vettori versus Darren Till.
That's fantastic.
The fight that really I'm pretty sure we were pretty I think we were pretty early on board with this fight, I would like to say.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great fight for the middleweight division. I think it's great that Vettori is being accepted as a top 5 guy. Jack Hermanson is a killer, and Vettori straight up handled him for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Took the best of his shots and the best of what he had to offer, just was the better man that night. And now you see him placed with Darren Till. I think it shows that the UFC believe in him as a top 5 guy. But when you look at this fight from a style perspective, to me, this comes off like Darren Till, out of the two, has out of all their talents in all aspects of MMA, Darren Till is an elite striker.
Yeah, there's only so many strikers like Darren Till.
But I think overall, Marvin Vettori has shown a more complete package as an MMA fighter.
I agree. He's very good on the ground. Very good.
And he's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And I don't use that to be like a negative. I just mean like he's good everywhere, but it's hard for me to sit here and say what his strength is.
Right. He's just really well-rounded. He's one of those guys. He does have a ton of submission wins, so I am curious to see if he can get Till to the ground. We've seen Till get in trouble. Woodley, he did finish him with the submission after the brutal ground and pound, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so if Till gets on the floor and Vettori's on top, I would lean heavily toward Vettori in that instance, but again, he's got to get it to the ground first, and Till's no easy guy to take down.
He's not, and I don't think Till's even been on the ground since that Woodley fight.
Yeah, and that was because he got hurt.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a very interesting fight. I'll let you talk a little bit about it, just your thoughts.
I mean, really, that's it. This is the main event. This is going to be 5 rounds, which it should be. We have 2 back-to-back huge middleweight main events. We'll talk about the next one in a second, but this is huge. This is, honestly, it's like a little tournament playing out here, kind of, sort of, like what we were seeing in the lightweight division. I don't really know what's going on in that division right now, but at one point it looked like a tournament, and that's what it's kind of looking like here. But I don't want to hint too far because we have one more fight to talk about before we get into that second middleweight bout.
So, do you want to go ahead and introduce the next fight for April 10th?
Listen, man. Super Sadiq Yusuff is back. The guy that I've talked about since day one of this podcast, yet have not gotten to preview a fight for him because he has not fought since we started in August. He's back, April 10th, taking on Arnold Allen. Both these guys on 9-fight win streaks right now. You want to talk about perfect matchmaking? This is it right here. This is the perfect example of matchmaking, 101. Kudos, UFC. You got me. This is the one right here.
I mean, these are 2 guys that are, I guess, still prospects, but they are so close to just being contenders at this point.
Yeah, both are top 15. Arnold, I think it's like 9-10, 9-11, something like that. This is a huge fight.
And I completely agree with you from the perspective of, like, this fight, really it's probably not even fair to call them prospects at this point. I mean, they legitimately are top 10 level fighters.
This is going to be like announcing their arrival to the elite.
Yeah.
The winner of this.
And I think the winner of this, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? Like both these guys could end up, we could be seeing this as a rematch down the line for a belt.
Yeah, I think either one of these guys could be a future champion. I mean, these are 2 next level, like that next generation of like MMA fighters that that people talk about all the time. These are like 2 of them right here.
And I have a hard time right now predicting the fight in my head, like kind of where each guy is going to like look to go. Like I think I'm going to have a lot of homework to do with this fight when the time comes.
It's a good thing we have 2 months to prepare for that one because it is such a, like on paper, man, so many intangibles here, and it's so important. And really, this is almost similar. I know they're not fighting until April, so it cuts down their timeline this year. But if you think about it, just like how I said with Amanda Ribas and Marina Rodriguez, the winner of this, depending on how many times they fight this year, could be a title contender by the end of the year or this time in 2022. It's one of those type of fights to me. It really is.
Isn't that crazy that we could be talking about one of these guys in a title fight at the end of the year? Like, that's just wild.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait for that fight. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. There's no more fights yet for that card, but Vettori Till, Allen Sadiq, I'll just take those two and be off with my evening.
Yeah, and not to even disclude the fact that a week later, on April 17th,
The other half of the middleweight tournament.
Ooh, our April 17th, our main event, Paulo Costa is back. But guess who else is back?
Bobby Knuckles 2.0.
A.K.A. Robert Whittaker. And first off, not for a belt, not for an interim belt.
At the moment.
As of now.
Yeah.
As of now. They didn't announce it as such, so I'm going to just assume that it's not going to be for one. But who knows? I think a lot might be answered with that when Adesanya moves up to light heavy, so we'll see. But I'm curious, just without that kind of layer, just as a fight, what are your thoughts here? Because I think I've been seeing a lot of chatter, and it appears that pretty much everyone is siding with Whittaker. And I'm not going to disagree. The Costa Adesanya fight showed a lot of Costa's flaws that I just didn't see before. He was exposed in a lot of ways. However, he's still a damn good fighter, and I think he's being disrespected a little bit. But on the same breath, I'm also going to say that I have a hard time seeing Whittaker lose to anybody besides Adesanya right now because of how good he's looked and this resurgence he's had. Those performances against Darren Till and then Jared Cannonier were nearly flawless. I mean, I know Cannonier hurt him in the third round, but you look at his first two rounds, and that was all Whittaker. You look at that Darren Till fight, Darren Till being an elite striker, Whittaker went punch for punch, kick for kick with him for 5 rounds and got the better of the exchanges. We're seeing a new man. This ain't even the guy that held the belt before. I think he's better.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya has awoken a different beast. I think a lot of people are siding with Whittaker simply because he is such a similar striker to Adesanya. Now, Adesanya is a better striker. I'm not saying Whittaker's on that level because obviously Adesanya knocked out Whittaker. But in terms of the way they fight, being really good counterpunchers and just very precise in their shots, that's where the problem is going to lie for Paulo again. However, I've been wanting to kind of talk about, the Izzy effect, trademark pending. He just kind of freezes people, Yoel and then Paulo back to back. I don't know if is Paulo going to show up like that again? If so, it's over already. But if he comes out being the aggressor, it will be interesting. However, man, like you mentioned, you said it perfectly for Whittaker, what we've seen since he lost the title. He's looked nearly untouchable outside of, Till had one moment and Cannonier had one teensy tiny moment. Other than that, it's been all Robert Whittaker for 8 rounds of fighting. So, it's intriguing. I think a lot of, that fight, a lot is going to play out for that fight when Adesanya fights Blachowicz. Because if Adesanya wins, who knows what's going to happen. If he loses, it makes the water a little more clear, I should say. But, if Izzy goes up and wins the light heavy title, we could be seeing the winner of Whittaker Costa take on the winner of Vettori Till for an interim belt or something like that. So that's why I like that these are back-to-back, both main events in the same month, a week apart from each other, so that they can line up the winners and even the losers on the same time frame. So that's perfect. The fight itself is incredible. It could play out in many different ways, but I, like most of the community right now, am, first glance at the fight, Whittaker is who I would pick right now. And the thing
is, I am too. I still am, just because, but it's more so as a credit to Whittaker, not as a slight to Costa.
Right.
I think a lot of people have been kind of just discrediting that run Costa went on. I mean, that guy hung in there with Yoel Romero, ate his best shots, and nearly put the big man to sleep. And then you look at fights like Uriah Hall, where he completely just murdered that man, or Johnny Hendricks. I mean, the list goes on. The guys looked incredible, but there was a lot of flaws exposed in the Adesanya fight, and I can't say that. I can't sit here and say that I'm as in on Costa as I was at one point. I really thought he was going to beat Adesanya.
Right.
I thought he was going to be a dominant champion. But I guess, there's more clarity in my eyes, I guess now. Like I see him as slightly different. And I hate that. I hate that one fight can dictate that so much, but it's hard for me to see him winning this fight with Whitaker right now.
It really is because I think the similarities between Whitaker and Adesanya's game, we saw that Paulo didn't have an answer for Izzy. What makes us think he's going to have an answer for Whitaker,
I will say I don't think Costa's going to freeze up again. I really don't. I think you're going to see him bull rush, come out like on fire. But I just think Whitaker is too smart and just too well-rounded at this point to really fall into that. I guess you could potentially be looking at a Yoel Whitaker 3 right here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Unofficially. But that's best-case scenario for Costa, and I still don't know if he wins.
Right, exactly.
Worst-case scenario, you kind of get a similar performance where he looks lost, he looks confused, and Whitaker kind of gets him out of there pretty easily. It's hard to tell right now, but 5 rounds headlining a fight night, give me that all day.
100%.
But all right, that is the end of the news. Let's talk about some fights.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now.
You know what? Let's talk about more fights. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
So, a bit of a bonus fight here. Truth be told, we weren't planning to really talk about this one, but I just think you got to give respect to the legends.
You do. It's at least a nod,
Mm-hmm. So our headliner for the prelims is a legend fight, and that's Michael Johnson versus Clay Guida. Dominic Salee, you're kind of being put on the spot here, but take it away.
Yeah, this won't be as in-depth, nitty-gritty as the main card, but just to touch on these guys, Michael Johnson has been in there with the who's who, and one of Noah's favorite stats is always pointing out who are the 2 gentlemen that Michael Johnson has at the top of that resume, Noah.
I believe it is Dustin Poirier.
It is.
And then I believe it is also Tony Ferguson.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. You are correct. And then you look at some of the losses that a guy like Michael Johnson has, and you're like, huh? So, Michael Johnson, no hate toward the guy. He is always in amazing fights. His fight with Justin Gaethje to welcome Gaethje into the UFC, incredible back and forth, just all-out war. And then Guida, when's the last time you've seen him in a boring fight? A cardio maniac, not a cardio machine, a cardio maniac, the Carpenter himself, the long hair, nobody pulls it off better than him, getting slapped in the face pre-fight by his trainer, nobody does it better than him, and he's been in there with the best of them as well. So, I'm thinking, Johnson Guida, is this going to be a stand-up war? Is Guida going to try and wrestle with Michael Johnson? Because I think, in my head, Johnson has the advantage on the feet in terms of the better striking, quote-unquote. Wrestling, you have to go with Guida here, but Guida's not afraid to stand and bang and just put it all out on the line. And neither one of these guys have anything to lose. That's what's fun about this fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you kind of look at it from a statistics side, right? We like to do that. You like to do that in your nitty-gritty. Michael Johnson has 8 wins via knockout, 2 wins via submission. However, he has only been knocked out twice, but he's been submitted 9 times. So you see a very clear advantage, disadvantage there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to Clay Guida, 7 wins via knockout, 13 via submission, only 2 knockout losses, 10 submission losses. So his resume is a little murkier because even though there's a lot of submission wins, I still kind of look at Guida as I don't know. I'm almost surprised that he's got. I know how good of a wrestler he is, but I always felt like in his biggest moments in the UFC, he was always in a war, stand and bang kind of thing.
Right.
And maybe that's just kind of me just not remembering the past correctly, but I have a hard time believing that this fight's going to be like Guida on top for 3 rounds.
Right.
I really don't. I think you're going to see a lot of mixing up. I mean, I could see Guida getting a couple takedowns.
Is he going to keep him down? Is the ground and pound going to be significant? Is he going to pull off a submission? Is he even going to look for submissions? There's a lot of question marks in this one.
And Michael Johnson, I think, could really give Guida some fits on the feet. I mean, he's going to have a reach advantage, I'd imagine. I think I'm going to go Michael Johnson here. But I think I'm going to go via decision.
So I'm on the reverse end. I actually have Guida, but I am going a decision as well. I just think we have 2 seasoned vets. They're just going to nullify each other, essentially, in my head right now. I'm just trying to play it through. I don't think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be exciting no matter where the fight goes. It's just a matter of, is it going to be on the feet? If it is somebody going to get rocked? If it goes to the ground, is Guida going to control and just dominate, or is Johnson going to be able to get back up? Is Johnson going to be on top? I don't think so, but you just never know with these 2 guys. Johnson's a tall, lanky guy. Guida's short and stocky. Very fun fight. And, you know, these guys have paid their dues, been in there with the who's who, and both they fought in lightweight and featherweight. So why not fight each other? I don't think they've ever fought each other. If they have, it's been a long time ago. This is so fun. Really is a fan favorite. Again, reminds me of that Bobby Green-Jim Miller matchup we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. Very excited for that one. Just had to give the legends a shout. But now we're into the main card. And we open our card with a big one. A big one at lightweight.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you good?
Oh, we going right now? I didn't know if you were segueing to me. Again, when we're not together, there's just no eye contact.
Hold on. So let me set it up here for you.
Okay.
So what we have here is Diego Ferreira versus Beneil Dariush. A huge fight at lightweight.
This is getting way overlooked, by the way. I just had to throw that out there.
So much so that if y'all haven't, you need to check out Overtime Heroics. If you follow me or Dom on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere like that, you will probably have seen this article being passed around. Dominic did a complete breakdown of this fight, of both these guys' careers, and gave a prediction and everything. So make sure to check that out. Support Overtime Heroics. They have a lot of good content on there. Dominic also did a complete breakdown for the month of January, just as a whole, the biggest takeaways, kind of the stat side of it, how many fights went to a decision, knockout, submission, all that. And he got a lot of love. Thought he's done a great job. Check it out. However, I have to let Dominic set this up because this is his fight, really.
Yeah, I appreciate the support, Noah. Again, apologize for the rough segue there. Again, when we're not in person, I just can't see you. We don't have the physical cues. But anyways, nitty-gritty, first one of February. Diego Ferreira, number 10 in the lightweight division. Beneil Dariush, number 13, if I'm not mistaken. Huge fight here. Another legitimate contender comes out as the winner. Diego Ferreira is 17-2, 3 KO TKOs, 7 submissions. He's 8-2 in the UFC. He is one of the most, not just in the lightweight division, underrated fighters. He's one of the most underrated fighters on the entire roster, in my opinion. He's got wins over Jared Gordon via TKO. Also got a huge submission victory over Anthony Pettis. That was the last time he fought on the Conor McGregor Cowboy card back in January of 2020. So we have not seen him in over a year. He has some notable losses. 1 to Mr. Beneil Dariush. That was via decision 6 years ago. And then he also got KO'd by Dustin Poirier. Those are the only 2 losses on his entire professional record. He's coming into this fight on a 6-fight win streak. 3 of those via finish. And 4 of his 10 total finishes have came in the first round. Blue corner, we've got Beneil Dariush. 19 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 5 KO TKOs, 8 submissions. He's 13-4-1 in the UFC. Honestly, Dariush gets more shine and glamour than Diego, but Dariush is still kind of underrated in my opinion. But he's got wins against Anthony Rocco Martin via submission, the Diego Ferreira win 6 years ago, beat Jim Miller via decision, got a Michael Johnson victory via split decision, KO'd James Vick, decision victory over Thiago Moises, submitted Drew Dober, KO'd Drakkar Klose in a comeback of the year performance for 2020. Then got a spinning back fist KO over Scott Holtzman. That was just pure insanity. Then some notable losses. He got submitted by Michael Chiesa, got KO'd by Edson Barboza, and also KO'd by Alexander Hernandez. And then the lone draw on his record was against Evan Dunham, just to throw that out there. He's coming into this fight on a 5-fight win streak. 7 of his 13 finishes have came in the first round. One of the win streaks has to come to an end here, Noah. But the question is, whose win streak is going to come to an end?
So, both these guys I think are underrated. I think you're right. Diego Ferreira is definitely, he's the higher ranked guy, yet he's the guy that gets the less shine of these two. But Dariush is not that far off from that same status. I think 2020 was a good year for Dariush as far as getting him back in people's mind.
You got the comeback of the year?
Yeah. Shout out to that video, by the way. Seeing him kind of tear up like that, it freaking pulled at the heartstrings a little bit. But yeah, this is a very good fight on paper. Now, both these guys have more submission wins than knockouts in their career. However, if you look at their resumes, Dariush has shown a greater willingness to trade and has probably showed more effectiveness on his feet, I would say.
Oh, yeah, he'll stand and bang.
That's kind of been his, I guess, kryptonite at the same time because his chin's not always held up the best. But I think on the reverse end, you get a guy like Diego Ferreira who is pretty much all about getting this fight to the ground, submitting you. Not that he can't win via knockout, but of the top 10 or 12 or whatever of lightweight, I feel confident to say he's probably got the least amount of punching power for the top echelon of fighters. He's very much a guy that's going to have to put his combinations together, throw a lot at you at a time. Dariush not having the best chin in the division could lead this to being kind of that kind of fight. But I look at it like Dariush has more – I think he has more answers to wherever the fight can go.
I think that's a good way to put it.
And while I think Diego Ferreira's grappling is probably the best skill between the two, I truly am not sure it's going to get there. I think this might end up being like a war for as long as it lasts. And I just think that Dariush has the more power, the better striking overall. And I think that could be a rough night for Diego Ferreira, truthfully. I'm going to go second round KO/TKO for Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the same thought process as you. It's, where's the fight going to take place the most? And I thought an interesting kind of question here is like, who's this going to benefit more if it goes into that third round? Because like we've seen Dariush specifically dig deep, pull off that comeback victory. That was in one round. You saw how tired he was in just that. So if this goes all three, and we're in the deep waters, who's going to come out? Who's it going to benefit? I think that's an interesting question. And I'm actually going to side with Dariush. I think he's going to be able to just keep up pressure that's going to eventually crack Diego. I'm going a third round KO/TKO Beneil Dariush. And he will crack into the top 10, essentially, with a win here. So, again, the winner of this, you will be hearing a lot more of, as the year progresses on. Because this lightweight division is just so stacked right now. We're just throwing another match in the fire right here with the winner of this fight.
Yeah, and all respect to Diego Ferreira. I know that me and Dom are both picking Dariush, but Ferreira could totally, if this fight gets to the ground especially, I think this could be definitely his fight to lose. But I just have a hard time seeing Dariush get taken down easily. He's going to be the bigger guy, stronger guy, and he's good enough. Dariush is still a very talented grappler. So for him to get to the ground, it's going to be very tough to do, and I have a hard time seeing Diego really hurt Dariush with his hands. It could happen. Anybody can get caught. I just don't really see it happening. Maybe he'll make me eat my words, but
right.
Because of that, I just have a hard time seeing how Diego gets the fight to the ground. outside of like a lucky trip or something.
And it's crazy, but like Dariush has more submission wins than Diego. Like,
Yeah,
shit, he could get on the ground and pull off a triangle or something. Like, this is a really just such a fun fight. With you want to talk about like intangibles that can take place and how many different scenarios. This is a perfect example of that. This is one of those real toss-up fights. Like, what is going to happen? And we're 1 day away when you're listening to this from finding out. Like, I cannot wait for this fight.
yeah, agreed. We move on to a big fight at bantamweight, a fight that's probably going to be under the radar for everyone compared to these other 4 fights. But we have an interesting matchup here because in one corner you got Cody Stamann, who is very much a veteran of this bantamweight division. He's very established. We kind of know who he is at this point. But then in the other corner, you got Askar, who is making his UFC debut. And therefore, Dominic, it's your turn to break this down. But I think we got our work cut out for us here.
Yeah, so this was originally supposed to be Cody Stamann and Andre Ewell. Was really looking forward to that matchup. That was going to be a banger. But this one is going to be a banger too. So Cody's 19-3-1, 6 KO TKOs, 2 submissions. He's 5-2-1 in the UFC. He's got wins over Brian Caraway via split decision, and then a unanimous decision over Brian Kelleher. He's got losses to Aljamain Sterling, that was via submission, and then lost to Jimmy Rivera via unanimous decision. And the draw on his record was to Song Yadong. And then 4 of his 8 finishes have came in the first round. So then we have the UFC newcomer here in Askar. He's 11-1, 5 KO TKOs, 1 submission, and then 5 of his 6 finishes have came in the first round. So this is interesting. And who's it going to benefit? Because Stamann had a whole training camp getting ready for Andre Ewell. Askar, late replacement, but he's clearly ready to fight, obviously, if he took this. So is Stamann going to be ready to adjust his game plan? Is Askar going to come in and make a splash in his UFC debut like Michael Chandler? This is an interesting fight. How do you think this will play out for the newcomer, Askar?
So it's tough to say because you got a guy who's literally making his debut in the promotion. And it's not against, some lower level competition.
Yeah, they're throwing him into the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, and, I get it. Guy goes down, you need someone to step up. You got Askar who's like, give me the fight. I'm here. Now, Cody Stamann's got a lot of decisions on his record. He kind of he's very similar to Jimmy Rivera in my eyes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
2 guys that could really be a champion at some point, but I think at times they kind of lack the killer instinct or those intangibles. Their grappling might be outstanding. They might have all the skills in the world, but sometimes they play it maybe a little too safe. Not that this is a great way to measure that, but 19 wins for Cody Stamann, 11 of them via decision. That's not a perfect way to measure that, but I'm just throwing it out there. And you've seen that cost Stamann at times. He's played it a little too safe, including against the guy I just talked about, Jimmy Rivera.
Exactly.
That was a fight where Jimmy looked a little more aggressive, and Cody kind of looked like he was coasting a little bit at times. That Song Yadong fight, much of the same. Aljamain Sterling, much the same. And Sterling is a guy who comes out and puts the pressure on you immediately.
Yeah, you can't be slow with Aljo.
And that was his most decisive loss he's had in his career. So, I mean, here you got a guy, all this whole time Cody Stamann's been preparing for Andre Ewell. And now you get this other fighter who is going to come in with a potentially much different game plan, much different style. And truthfully, I mean, the guys looked really good. His one LFA fight was a big unanimous decision win over Kevin Worth. However, despite all of that, I'm still going to pick Cody Stamann to win this fight. It just comes down to, I just think there's a veteran presence that's going to be, able to carry him through. Don't get me wrong, Askar might have an awesome career in the UFC and could this could be the start of something really special for him. But I just haven't seen it yet. And even on his, the rest of his resume, doesn't really blow me away. Like, not just the fact that he has a loss, because a lot of guys lose early in their career, but only the one fight at LFA, and really before that, he's fought technically twice with LFA, but in different terms, I guess. I don't know. That's not a ton of high-level experience, in my opinion. And Cody Stamann is just a very tough guy to be basically here's your debut.
Right.
So I'm going to go Cody Stamann, and I think it's going to be a decision. I think he's going to do what he does best. He's going to grapple the shit out of Askar. And I still think it could be a fun fight. I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Cody Stamann. My heart goes out to him. I know he lost his brother last year, and he's very emotional about that after winning one of his fights. But he could very well be a champion at some point. Totally could. However, I think you're going to see one of those performances from him where he just he does enough to win, but he doesn't really do anything to just really
wow
stick
you.
with you.
Yeah. You really couldn't have put it any better. I'm going the exact same route here. I would love to see Askar come in and make a big debut on short notice on a main card. Again, they called this guy up for a reason. So
Right.
He's going to be there to put on a show. However, like you said, Stamann's been in there, more experienced guy. He's been in there with some really tough competition. I'm going to go Stamann. I'm going to go decision. But I don't doubt that Askar could come in and make a really good first impression. And even in a loss at that, he could still look good. So
Yeah. I mean, for all we know, if he just looks good here, then all of a sudden he kind of gets a number next to his name just for being willing to take the fight.
Right.
Who knows what happens if he has a full training camp? Maybe
Exactly.
he starches Cody Stamann. You just don't know. It's a lot to ask for him, though, in his debut. So it'll be interesting.
And speaking of debuts,
Yeah. This is the fight, probably besides Dariush Ferreira, this is probably the fight I'm most excited for.
this is fight of the night.
Yep. Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. Alexandre Pantoja going up against the former Ryzen champion, Starboy Manel Cape. Dominic, roll out the red carpet.
Oh, baby. So Pantoja, a perennial contender at the flyweight division. He's 22-5, 8 KO TKOs, 8 submissions, 6-3 in the UFC. He's got wins over Brandon Moreno, that guy that just fought to a draw with Davison Figueiredo. No big deal.
Right.
TKO'd Wilson Hayes, and also KO'd Matt Schnell, who we talked about. UFC Fight Island 8. I'm getting all the hashtags mixed up these days. And then he's lost to Dustin Ortiz via decision. Lost to the champion, Davison Figueiredo, via decision. And then lost to the undefeated Askar Askarov via unanimous decision. He's literally fought everyone there is in the top of this division, and he's still hanging around. He's got 9 round 1 finishes out of his 8 plus 8, 16 total career finishes. Manel Cape, the debuting Manel Cape, former Ryzen champion, 15 wins, 4 losses, 9 KO TKOs, 5 submissions, 1 away from the perfect finish rate, but we'll take 14 out of 15, we'll take it. UFC debut, like I mentioned, former Ryzen champion, like we both mentioned. He's coming into this on a 3-fight win streak, all of them via KO TKO. 7 of his 14 finishes have came in the first round, and he does have a couple notable wins. I just had to give a little shout out to some former UFC fighters. One, a TKO over Ian McCall, and then also a KO victory over Takeya Mizugaki. So even though he's been over there in Ryzen, taking on a lot of the Asian market, superstars over there, he's fought some good competition. Don't get it twisted just because he's coming from a lesser-known organization. This dude is legit, and people have been waiting to see him debut since August. It's been delayed twice. Here we are now in February 2021. This fight is a banger. Again, fight of the night for me. Noah, give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, all those accolades you just listed off for both these guys, Pantoja's 30, Cape is 27. These guys are pretty young.
Yeah,
and
we could
they're
see both of these guys around for years to come.
and they're so accomplished. I mean, Pantoja, we've been seeing him. You're completely accurate in saying perennial contender. I mean, he's literally losing to the top of the top. Davison, and then you got Askar Askarov, who's probably one win away from fighting for a belt. Even beating Brandon Moreno, who could be champion right now if things had went a little different. And then on the other end, you got probably the lesser known, the more unpredictable, Manel Cape, 27. Guy's been fighting for Verizon for such a long time.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype around Manel Cape, man.
It's so amazing to me. His record's 15-4, and you kind of go, all right, he's never fought in the UFC. Why is this guy getting all this shine, right? I mean, you got to realize this guy's been fighting for Verizon for years. He's been fighting high-level competition since he was in his early 20s.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the potential that this guy has and really what we're seeing as of late, the execution of that potential into being just, he's that damn good. It's a great first matchup for him. Honestly, it's definitely a bit of like throwing him to the wolves, it's not an easy fight. But in the same way, I really wouldn't put him against anybody any lower. I feel like it would do him a disservice, And I had a completely different point of view with Michael Chandler, and you saw what happened there.
Right.
I'm a big believer in Manel Cape, but Pantoja is a dog, man, and those 16 wins via finish. Who says the flyweights don't finish anybody? Am I right?
Exactly.
Pantoja's never been finished in his career. Manel Cape looks like he has a submission loss against Horiguchi. That's another UFC vet. So he's got the one loss really via finish. But honestly, Dom, I might be crazy for this one, but I think one of those O's has got to go. I think Manel Cape KO TKOs Pantoja via, well, not via, third round.
Via KO TKO in the third round.
Yeah, so I'm going third round. I think it's fight of the night. I think Pantoja, I could totally see dropping Cape at a point. I could see us just being a war back and forth. I think it's a great way to introduce Manel Cape to the American audience. And
they're throwing him in there with Pantoja, man, for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like a debuting guy you're going up against. I think he's like number 6 right now in the division, and he's streaking. So this is no easy fight for Manel Cape. However, I'm going to go with Pantoja. I think he's going to be able to stop the hype train just a little. I think this is going to be a barn burner, an absolute war, a slugfest. It's going to be so fast-paced, as the flyweights are so prone to do. But I think Pantoja's going to get it done via a razor close, maybe even split, potentially decision. I think this is going to be an awesome fight. I'm very excited to see this Manel Cape. I've never really gotten to watch him outside of highlights, so to see him debut this Saturday is going to be very fun against a perennial contender. A lot's going to be made, especially if he were to come in and win this. Very interested to see what's next for him. Pantoja, though, been in there with the best, and he's going to add one more dub to the resume, in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, I could totally see it going either way. Pantoja's very underrated, honestly, at this point.
He is.
I think it's safe to say. We move on to the co-main event of the evening. Also, a bantamweight fight. This is our second one we've discussed here. Huge implications with this one. We got Corey Sandhagen going up against the answer, Frankie Edgar. Dominic, do your thing.
Yeah, go ahead and get a cup of Joe for this one, because Frankie's got quite the resume. But I guess we got to start with Corey, right? The young gun, 13 wins, 2 losses, 5 KO TKOs, 3 submissions. He's 6-1 in the UFC with, split decision over John Lineker, unanimous decision over Rafael Sunsao, TKO'd Marlon Moraes with a freaking spinning wheel kick in a main event on Fight Island last year. And his only loss in the UFC, Aljamain Sterling. And that was via submission. 5 of his 8 finishes have came in the first round. Sandhagen, since the day he stepped into the UFC, has been looked at as a guy that can become the champion, and I think it's still much of the same, a couple years later. Again, 6-1 in the UFC. However, Frankie the Answer Edgar has been there, he's done that, and this is now his third weight class. 24 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw, 7 KO TKOs, 4 submissions. Yeah, that means he has, 7 plus 4 is 11, 24 minus 11, 13 decision victories. Oh, by the way, Frankie Edgar has the most octagon time in UFC history, and I don't even think it's close between him and second place. He's 18-8-1 in the UFC, wins against Tyson Griffin, decision. Spencer Fisher, decision. Hermes Franca, decision. You're going to hear a lot of decisions on here, hence the octagon time. Sean Shirk, unanimous decision. He's beaten BJ Penn 3 different times, twice via decision, once via TKO. KO Gray Maynard. He beat Charles Oliveira via decision. He's beaten Cub Swanson twice, once via submission, once via decision. He beat Uriah Faber, decision. He KO'd Chad Money Mendez. He got a decision over Jeremy Stevens. A TKO over a surging at the time Yair Rodriguez. When everyone counted Frankie Edgar out, he kicked Yair's ass. It was pretty crazy. And then he has a split decision in his bantamweight debut. That was against Pedro Munoz. That was the very first fight night that we ever broke down on this podcast. Fun fact. Woo! But he's got some losses. He's got a decision loss to Gray Maynard. He's lost twice to Benson Henderson, once via unanimous decision, once via split. He lost to Jose Aldo twice, both in title fights, one for an interim belt, I suppose. Both times via decision. Got KO'd by Brian Ortega, the first time he had ever been KO'd in his entire career. Lost the decision to Max in another title fight, and then got TKO'd by the Korean Zombie. 6 of his 11 finishes have came in the first round. Frankie Edgar, former champion, perennial contender in featherweight, now a contender in bantamweight. This guy can do it all. He's been there and done that, Noah. But can he get it done against Corey Sandhagen?
No.
Oh. Quick to it. I like the confident answer.
No, I'll be I gotta be more respectful to Frankie Edgar. I mean, come on, that's a legend, right? Yeah. So you just listed all of it. Frankie Edgar is one of the greatest fighters the UFC's ever had.
Yeah, I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I mean, my God. Almost to a nauseating degree was this man getting title shots. It's like to a point where it's like, all right, I never want to see him in a title fight again. However, it's hard to say he never earned any of them. That guy just was old. Like, he's just a guy that was it was almost frustrating how much he just wouldn't leave the top.
Yeah.
It's like, God, you want that fresh blood? And he's like, nope. Yair Rodriguez, get your face smashed.
Yeah,
kid.
just
Things
when you
like
count
that.
out Frankie, he comes and just puts on an incredible performance. It's crazy.
Problem has been kind of in this later part of his career, you started to see
The chin.
finishes. Yeah, the chin. Brian Ortega with that uppercut from hell.
Woo! It was the featherweight version of
Frankie-
freaking Ngannou's uppercut.
Yeah, put Frankie off his feet. And then Korean Zombie. I mean, that was a fight Frankie took on short notice. Probably shouldn't have. But Korean Zombie, the animal he is, just finished that fight early, quickly. Now you see Frankie Edgar move down to bantamweight. His debut headlining against Pedro Munoz.
What a fight.
Very, very good fighter. Ends up being basically a fight of the year. A fight I thought Munoz was going to pretty much walk through Edgar. I thought Frankie was pretty much done.
Yeah.
I didn't think the extra 10 pounds cutting weight, I didn't think that would be good for his chin. It held up. I mean, it really did.
Yes, it did.
However, with all that being said, I still didn't think he won that fight. But it was so close that it's hard to really, cry over spilt milk, right? Yeah, it's like at this point, it's done is done. It was a fight of the year. It was an amazing fight.
And he looked good, regardless of if it went to Pedro. It's like, okay, well, damn, Frankie still has some gas left in the tank. But then he just gets the win anyway, and here he is with Sandhagen, a potential number 1 contender fight.
Yeah. And, yeah, that's so true. I mean, now he's literally a win away from fighting for a belt.
In his third weight class.
Yeah. However, Corey Sandhagen, I think, is a future champion of this division.
Right.
I know his hype, or whatever you want to call it, his direction got a bit halted by Mr. Aljamain Sterling, who beat him pretty easily. But Corey Sandhagen being so young,
so unique,
just having limitless potential. I mean, he's only 28 years old, not even in his athletic prime yet, and you've already seen some of the shit this guy can do in the octagon. I think he's incredible.
And I tell you, Noah, he is like, we saw Dominic Cruz come in, WEC, and then UFC with the movement and just how unique his style was and how we had never seen it before. And I really don't think it's been close to being replicated until Corey Sandhagen. I think he's the closest fighter to Dominic Cruz, and he's like the modern new martial arts version of the way Dominic Cruz moves around the octagon and approaches his opponents.
It's a good way to put it, and that's kind of how I see this fight going. I just think Sandhagen, being the younger, the more athletic, the faster fighter, I just think he's kind of gonna. I think he's gonna pretty much run circles around Frankie here. I think Frankie's got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of talent still. I think I could really see him maybe dragging Sandhagen into some sort of dogfight here, some grinding, 3-round battle. But I think Sandhagen's going to be a little too smart for it, a little too fast for it. I think Sandhagen's going to be able, or I think Frankie's going to be able to get this fight to a decision. But I think Sandhagen pretty much sweeps the board. I'm going Corey Sandhagen via decision.
I agree 100%. I'm going Sandhagen decision. Again, I just think he's going to get the job done in every facet. I'm going to be curious if it goes to the ground. I am a little intrigued. But if it stays on the feet, I really think Corey's going to pick him apart, control the distance, move around with that unique style, as I mentioned. But yeah, if it gets to the ground, it could be fun. But Sandhagen's no slouch on the ground either. Don't let the Aljo fight stir you in the wrong direction. If you're talking well-roundedness, Corey Sandhagen is about as well-rounded as they come. So, this is a great fight. Happy for Frankie to get this opportunity, potentially earn another title shot. For Sandhagen, I really wanted him to get Dominic Cruz or TJ Dillashaw, either or, but he's getting Frankie. I can't complain about it, and he's right there knocking on the doorstep of a title shot, of course, if he wins. Frankie's never an easy fight for anyone, but I think it's Corey Sandhagen's time to really make a statement and kind of show, okay, I lost to Aljo, but that wasn't because, I'm bad. That's how good Aljo is, and I'm coming back to avenge that loss. So
Yeah, we move on to the main event of the evening. Big boys at heavyweight.
Oh, boy.
Alistair Overeem. He said one last ride.
Yes, he did.
And he's going up against the Russian, Alexander Volkov. Very interesting fight we have here on paper, Dominic, and no better guy to break it down than you, sir.
Alistair Overeem is 47 and 18. 47 wins, 18 losses. Quick math, that's 65 fights. That's a lot. You want to hear another crazy stat? 47 wins, right? 47 wins. That's a lot. Here's the finishing numbers. These are not typos. You're hearing me correctly speak through this microphone. 25 KO TKOs, 17 submissions. 25 plus 17 equals 42. Overeem has finished 42 out of 47 wins. Just let it soak like a sponge. Just let that soak while I continue talking here. 12-7 in the UFC. Here comes the long-winded resume. He's got wins over Brock Lesnar, TKO. Unanimous decision against Frank Mir. KO'd Stefan Struve. Unanimous decision over Roy Nelson. TKO'd Junior Dos Santos. TKO'd Andrei Arlovsky. KO'd Mark Hunt. Majority decision over Fabricio Verdum. TKO'd Alexei Oleinik. TKO'd Walt Harris. and TKO'd Augusto Sakai in his most recent bout. That's just the UFC. If we want to get into all the other shit this guy's done, we're going to be here for hours. So I'm just going to save you some. Noah, if you want to touch on any of the other stuff in a few minutes, be my guest. In terms of losses, he's lost to Bigfoot Silva via KO, got KO'd by Travis Brown, TKO'd by Ben Rothwell, KO'd by Mr. Stipe Miocic. We saw that live in person. What an experience. Got KO'd by Francis Ngannou. That's when his head went off of his shoulders into the 16th row of the arena. Lost to TKO via TKO to Curtis Blades. That was when his face got cut open by the Hellbows. Ew. And then got KO'd by Rosenstruik. That's when his lips split open like a pair of jeans. Absolutely disgusting KOs that this man has suffered. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Oh, man.
Hey.
That sounds so bad.
Here's another stat, though. 42 finishes, right? 33 of them have came in the first round. He likes to get in, get out, hands off, hands clean. You know what I'm saying? However, no easy task here. He's going up against what? 6'7", the second tallest guy in UFC history outside of Stefan Struve. Big guy. His whole tattoo is a samurai warrior. It's quite terrifying. Alexander Volkov, 32 wins, 8 losses. That's 40 fights, plus 65 fights on Overeem. That's 105 total fights between these guys. That's a lot of experience. Unbelievable. He's got 21 KO TKOs, 3 submissions, 24 out of 32 via finish. Volkov is 6-2 in the UFC. Wins over Blagoy Ivanov. That was in Bellator back in 2014 via submission. Split decision over Tim Johnson. Unanimous decision over Roy Nelson. TKO'd Stefan Struve. KO'd Fabricio Verdum. A decision over Greg Hardy. And then in his most recent bout, that was at 254, right? With Habib and Gaethje. He TKO'd Walt Harris with that body kick. Ooh, that was brutal. He's lost to Chet Congo, also in Bellator in 2015 via decision. Got KO'd by Derek Lewis in a fight he was winning and quite frankly dominating until the last few seconds. Derek Lewis decided to throw a punch and it knocked the shit out of him. And then he lost the decision in a main event with Curtis Blades. And then 15 of his 24 finishes have also came in the first round. So when you put that together, let's see, 24 plus 42, that's 66 finishes between these guys. 33 plus 15, 48 first round finishes. This is unbelievable stuff here, Noah. You got to take it away for a second because I need a drink of water.
You, I think, just wrote a book right there by talking. Wow. Yeah. A lot of finishes, a lot of wars between these two.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Unbelievable stuff.
I mean, the fact that Overeem's still fighting is incredible.
And at such a high level.
He still looks incredible.
He's getting better.
Has he been knocked out 14 times? Yes, he has. Is that somewhat concerning? Of course. However, it's the ring, baby.
It's the ring.
One
final ride.
One last ride. I mean, this is Undertaker level shit.
Rumor has it he's coming out of the Apex on the motorcycle. That's just what I heard.
With Limp Bizkit playing on his way out. Now, here's my thing, right? Overeem is one of the best fighters to never win a belt in the UFC.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Just look, that resume you just listed off. I know he's had his fair share of losses, but he nearly finished Stipe. That straight left he threw or straight right,
he felt the tap.
Dropped him. He felt the tap. But
we digress.
One of the best fighters to never win a belt.
Yeah, man.
While Volkov has had a much, to me, it's like no matter how many more times Overeem fights, and I say that lightly because, God forbid, they'll let a guy like BJ Penn go in there and lose 11 straight times. But as of now, I feel safe in saying that Overeem's book has pretty much been written,
Yeah.
If he gets that belt, that'd be incredible. But to me, as of now, his story's been written in the UFC. No matter where he goes from here, he is a Hall of Famer. He is all those things. He is a credit to the sport. Volkov in the UFC has much less. as of now, there's just less that's like written, right? There's less written in stone. Because in my opinion, his career's been a bit disappointing for the as far as in the UFC. He looked incredible in Bellator, heavyweight champion over there.
I thought so, yeah.
He's looked incredible at times, but then you see some of these fights where you kind of go, like that wasn't great. You know, you look at the fight like Derek Lewis, the fact that he was able to get finished after essentially dominating for 3 rounds. You look at that fight with Greg Hardy, where, especially now, you look back, we were giving so much credit to Greg Hardy back then.
We still to this day say that's his best performance.
And now I look back and I go, why wasn't Volkov able to do more in that fight?
Right.
You know? Volkov had so much more experience on him. I know Greg Hardy, athletic freak, all that, but it just raises a lot of questions, in my opinion. So I think there's less in stone right now for Volkov. And despite his finishing rate, Volkov does not have the most power in the heavyweight division. You know, he's 6'7", he's a bit of a lankier guy.
Big guy.
Overeem, I know he's not Overeem anymore.
He's still thick. He's thick with it.
Dude, big with it. And, I think this fight's going to... I think it's not going to go in the first. I think you're going to see this fight go a few rounds here.
I agree. Yep.
I don't think it goes to a decision either, though.
I agree.
I'm going Overeem, and I'm going 4th round.
Oh!
TKO KO.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We're going to see it play out a little bit. And I don't doubt that Volkov's going to be able to land shots. But, man, it's just... And I know he's got 40 fights. But then you look at a guy, Overeem, 65 fights. What hasn't Overeem seen? That's the thing. You're not going to catch him with anything that he has not been up against. And Volkov's not really the guy to do that anyway or propose that type of challenge. So I think Overeem, over time, is going to get the edge. I'd like to see him actually even utilize a takedown or two. I think it could be interesting because Blades dominated Volkov. I'm not saying Overeem is Blades-level wrestling, but we saw what Overeem did to Sakai. When that fight went to the ground, pure domination and finished him with the elbows. I think we're going to see an almost near identical finish in this fight right here. I think he's going to finish Volkov, 3rd round, KO, TKO, on the ground. I think he's going to land shots. I don't know if he's going to take him down, put him down with shots, but he will finish this fight on the ground, in my opinion, on top with some nasty ground and pound.
Nice. I think that means 4 of our 6 predictions were the same.
Yeah, we were tight on this one, huh?
Yeah. So, that's going to wrap up this preview for hashtag UFC Vegas 18. Dominic, tell the people what time this card's starting. Are you aware of what time it's starting?
So this is one of the, well, I don't want to say early, but it's an 8 p.m. Eastern time main card, which is always nice. You know, especially we had a week off, but we don't have to get into like a late 10 o'clock start. We can do a nice 8 o'clock. We're done and still have time to read a bedtime story. We don't just have to jump right into bed and go to sleep. So it's 8 o'clock East Coast main card. Prelims at 5 p.m. East Coast. And man, this is another one. Well, honestly, this is a pretty stacked fight night. We're big on the cards that we have to do a lot of homework on, and there's a lot of new up-and-comers. But man, this fight night right here, there are up-and-comers. But damn, this is a great card from top to bottom, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a great fight night to kind of welcome us back to a more week-to-week basis here.
Yeah, back to normal. We're back in Vegas for these, so we're in the smaller octagon. We're in the Apex. Just keep that in mind for some of the fights we'll be seeing. But yeah, man, we're back. Again, it's a Friday. Then we're going to be back Monday. I know you're going to get into that. But we're just back to a normal groove. And damn, it feels good to be previewing such a good card. It's a perfect way to get back into the swing of things.
I agree. And as you mentioned, Monday, we will be recapping all the action we just talked about here. These fights happening Saturday night. We'll talk about them. That'll come on Monday. Are we doing a special episode?
I think we should. Let's do it.
Yeah, fuck it.
We don't know what, but we're going to have one.
TBA.
TBA.
To be announced.
Yes.
So that'll be coming on Wednesday. And then obviously Friday.
Yeah, another pay-per-view, baby.
Preview for UFC 258, headlined by the much long anticipated bout at this point between Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. But until then, Dominic Slee, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Find me on Twitter, on Instagram, at dslee14. Find the podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, at BAJ_MMA podcast.
And as for me, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram, at ntbaker_, you'll be taken to our link tree, which gives you the links to all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with the social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, along with Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple links for our Anchor page. First, recording a voice message. Something we really want to hit hard in 2021.
One down, many to go.
Yep. If you have an opinion about an upcoming fight, an upcoming card, a video idea, if you just want to say hi or tell us that we're a piece of shit, record it at that link. Up to 60 seconds. So don't take that long to tell us off, all right? Also, there's a link if you want to become a supporter of the podcast. That just provides us with a few dollars a month. All that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast, whether it be audio equipment or down the line doing a video podcast. So again, you can find all of that if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at ntbaker_. But with that, we're out. And we'll see y'all on